A very good evening to you all. Thank you very much for coming. And the title of my presentation is Excessive Damming on the Tibetan Plateau and its Global Implications. Now, before we go into the actual topic, I just want to tell you why we give this presentation. Now, Tibetan Plateau is also called the water tower of Asia, which means most of the Asian rivers, or the rivers like in India, rivers like Brahmaputra and Indus, Karnali, Satluj, all those rivers come from Tibetan Plateau, which is why it's called the water tower of Asia. Now, if you travel any part of Asia, from Pakistan to Bangladesh, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, you are never far away from Tibetan rivers. In Pakistan, the Indus River, which comes from Tibet, flowing into Ladakh region of India and then to Pakistan. And then the Karnali, Satluj, all these rivers which come from Tibet and into Nepal or India and then into India. And then finally the Brahmaputra river which comes from Tibet and into Arunachal Pradesh, in Assam, and then into Bangladesh, also come from Tibet. And then there are other rivers like Mekong River, River Satluj, Selvin, then the Yellow River and Yangtze River. All these four major Asian rivers also come from Tibetan Plateau and flow into Southeast Asian countries. Now, what we can say is basically 6 greatest rivers in Asia originate from Tibetan Plateau and flow into 10 most densely populated nations in Asia, which means 1.5 billion people depend on Tibetan rivers. Now, why I'm giving this presentation is, in 1975 there was a huge flood in China, which was caused by, first it was caused by very heavy rainfall, and later it was exacerbated because of collapse of dam. This dam was called Banchir Dam collapse, which killed 171,000 people and made 11 million people homeless. It was one of the biggest disasters in world history. And the cause of that flood was first, as I said, because heavy rainfall, which led to collapse of one of the dams, and that dam collapsed. That dam caused collapse of other dams. And one of the biggest reasons was there were concentration of too many dams in one particular area. And in that area, Domadin city had almost 62 dams in that very small region. Now, what I want to see is, could such a disaster happen again? There was an article written by Eric Fish which said in the scenario that occurred, the scenario that led to the collapse of that dam might be re-emerging in recent years. And to understand that, first we need to understand what are the factors that led to the collapse of that dam, and then to see if those factors are present in today. If so, where and how. Now first, what led to the disaster of that dam? As I said, primarily because of poor engineering. Between 1915 and 1917, there were hundreds of dams being built in China, and most of these dams were mud-filled dams, which means they had a poor material that built, and also it was beginning of building dams in China that engineers were not as advanced as now. So one of the biggest reasons for that collapse was poor engineering, and the second one was because of natural calamity like Typhoon Nina or heavy rainfall. And the third one was because of excessive damming. Too many dams were built in a small area. Those were the 3 factors that led to the collapse of that dam. And the interesting thing was, after the collapse of that dam, what the Chinese newspaper said, the dam that was collapsed was designed to survive once in 1,000-year rainfall. But once in 2,000-year rainfall or flood occurred in 1975. That's what they said. So they said, when they built the dam, they said it's almost impossible for any natural calamity to damage the dam, and then it happened. And when that happened, they said they gave some other excuses. So which means there's never anything that cannot be damaged. Now we need to see those factors that led to the collapse of the dam are present here, present now or not. First 3 factors: poor engineering, natural calamity, and excessive damming. were the reasons that led to the collapse. And the fourth and fifth factors that we need to take into consideration because of the changes in the situation. The fourth one is climate change, which leads to increase in the river volume in short term and then decrease in the river volume in the long run because of melting glaciers. And the fifth one is because of geographical location. Place like Tibet, which is very high, which is very mountainous, and which is highly seismic prone, highly fragile. These things we need to take into consideration. Now, factor number one, the poor engineering definitely improved. China has improved so much for the last 50 years in building dams. So they have improved in material, they have improved in technique, everything. So the engineering was much better than before. So there's no issue of engineering. But the second factor, increased natural calamity, is true in the case of Tibet, because this year, the month of July 2016, saw the largest number of natural disasters in Tibet. We had droughts, we had floods, and we also had what you call a glacier avalanche, something very unusual. So all kind of natural calamity happened within a month, in the month of July, which means there is every possibility of Tibet facing some kind of flood in future. And then the factor number three, excessive damming, which also led to collapse of Banqiao Dam, is also present on the Tibetan Plateau. China has built 30, that we know of now, so far, 36 dams on the Yangtze River, 21 on Mekong, 24 on Selvi River, 11, they have built one dam already on the Brahmaputra River, which we are aware of, and they are going to build 10 more dams on Brahmaputra. If they do so, then it will have decrease of river water flow to India and Bangladesh, and one dam on the Indus River. So what we can say is there is a huge concentration of dams on the Tibetan Plateau. And not only that, they have been, unlike before, now Chinese government building mega dams, really big dams on the Tibetan Plateau. Dam number one is Zamlha hydropower dam, which has the capacity of 510 megawatt on the Yangon or the Brahmaputra. They run into India. And then number two is Liaiku hydropower dam, which has 3,000 megawatt of capacity, built on Yakshu River, a tributary of Yangtze River. And the number three is Suwanu hydropower dam, which has the capacity to produce 1.2 gigawatt of hydropower electricity on the Yangtze River. So these are huge dams, and any factor that led to collapse of such a dam can have a cascade effect, which means the collapse of one of these big dams will naturally destroy other dams in the downstream countries. That's factor number three. Now, we also need to take into consideration the water stress that India faces. This publication issued by Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis in New Delhi, which says water demand in India will grow from its current water supply of approximately 740 billion cubic meter to almost 1.5 trillion cubic meter by 2030, primarily driven by population growth and domestic need for agriculture. Now, if the demand for water to continue increase in the future, building dams on the Tibetan rivers that flow in India will only exacerbate the situation, which means there will be less and less water coming into India, but the need for water will be continuously increasing in India, so which will cause some very huge difficulty for Indian government and people of India. And also there is another publication which says the combined river basin of Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra benefits or support 744 million people living within the contiguous arc from Afghanistan to Bangladesh, or basically the fertile Ganges plain of North India is fed by Tibetan rivers. Now the factor number four, and this is something that I added, and which is I think is very important, is the climate change. And because of climate change, there has been continuous increase in atmospheric temperature on the Tibetan Plateau. The temperature rise on the Tibetan Plateau is twice more than global average, which is why there has been continuous retreating of glaciers. According to IPCC, 82% of glacier on the Tibetan Plateau has retreated in the last 50 years. And according to Chinese scientist Professor Kang, who said there has been no net accumulation of ice on the Tibetan Plateau, which means it has been continuously melting. And if the current rate, the melting rate continues, 2/3 of all glaciers will be gone by 2050 in the future, which means most of the rivers that come from Tibet and into the other countries of Asia are mostly fed by glacier melt. And if there's no glacier to melt, these rivers naturally dry up. And also, this also will have impact on the mega dams. You know, most of these dams are built so that they can store the water. But if there's no water to flow, then the very reason why this dam will built become irrelevant. Now, finally, this fifth fact that I added is earthquake. Now, earthquake has become a serious issue in recent years, especially after the big earthquake that happened in Nepal. Now, there are studies which says that about 2% of dam failures are because of earthquakes or seismic activities. And the Tibetan Plateau is a very, very seismic prone region. So there are scientists who say that dams are both the cause of earthquake and also can be destroyed by earthquake, which basically means that when there's a huge mega dam be built, when they're filling water into that dam, the sudden increase of volume or weight on the area causes seismic activities, and that can cause a collapse of dam. If that dam collapse, then it can destroy other dams. Now there are a few case studies here. 2000 Wenchen earthquake in China, which killed 80,000 people, is said to be induced by a nearby dam called Zipingbu Dam. So Chinese government built a huge dam somewhere, and because of that dam, 80,000 people died because a dam earthquake was caused by that dam. And in 2014, Ludian earthquake, which again happened in China, is also said to be induced by another dam. Now, China has, according to its 12th five plan, has listed 454 hydropower dams to be built on the Tibetan rivers, which means there is going to be increasing the number of dams on the Tibetan Plateau. Now, the case of the earthquake, as I said, Tibet is highly seismic prone. In 1950, there was a huge, very powerful earthquake that happened on the Tibetan Plateau, which is called Assam Tibet earthquake. And it is among the 10 most deadliest earthquakes happened in world history, Earth's history, 8.6. And the number of people died at that point in time was 1,500 people, which was people who were able to account for. And that earthquake, what happened during that earthquake was that it caused landslide, and the landslide caused blocking of rivers, which means there were artificial lakes or reservoirs formed. And after 8 or some days, that lake burst, and then we watched the remaining small villages in Assam. And one of the river village completely disappeared after the earthquake. And any such earthquake happen around these areas, especially in the place where the 1950 earthquake happened, is when many of the big dams have been built. Any of such an earthquake happened, then some of these dams we built could collapse, and that collapse can bring a huge flow of water into India, and that can cause flood in downstream countries like in Assam, Arunachal, and Assam. And the history of dam-induced earthquakes, there were many, like the one in China in 1962, one in Kirib, Rhodesia in 1963, one in Greece in 1966, and one in India in 1967. So dam-inducing earthquake is nothing new. There has been history of such things. So what the conclusion could be that if a dam collapsed because of earthquake, if an earthquake happened, or if it was any factor because excessive rainfall or something happens and one of the dam collapsed, it can have devastating consequences for Tibet and the countries beyond its border. And one other factor that I have not included in this is water dams can be used as a weapon against each other. If in case of a conflict between India and China happens, the many of the dams they have built on the Brahmaputra, they can just blast one of the dam and cause flood in India. So it's from the high elevation to low level elevation, which means naturally there will be a huge destruction on the Indian side. So such things can happen, and this is why we really need to take into consideration the implication of excessive damming on the Tibetan Plateau, because excessive damming on the Tibetan Plateau not only affects Tibetans and the Tibetan Plateau, but it also affects the 10 countries that depend on Tibetan rivers in Asia. That's my presentation. Thank you.